let's do a review of this then. The laundry centre has had it. That it was his. He bought it used quite a fair few years ago, and as you know, because he's kind of downsized, he's also downsized the machines as well. I've copped for a couple of them over the last sort of like 12 months. So, and this is the latest one. If you're wondering what else I copped for, I obviously got the QWC set. I've got the Miele PT7135, sort of, that was sat on top of this, and I've got the bigger Electrolux thing as well, the 8 kilo one. Well, this is obviously a standard small size washing machine version. But strangely, with this Electrolux, you can just about fit it under a counter. Yeah, as daft as it seems, it's ever so slightly bigger than the domestic Bosch that's next to it, but it does stand pretty much the same height, the same width, and so yeah, sure enough, it can be used and put under a kitchen counter. That's how big it is. It can start off from 832mm. The feet are quite raised up on this, so it's probably standing around 860mm right now. It's 595mm wide, like every other normal domestic washing machine, but its depth is 681mm deep. That is mostly to hide a lot of the board and stuff like that, and the valves, and to make it all work properly, so there's plenty of space inside. It's not to access the bearings and stuff any easier, but it is made easy to get at the bearings, since it has 1, a bearing brace, 2, a stainless steel outer tub, and 3, the entire back comes off it. Literally. It's also sat on 4 gas struts, and there's absolutely no springs in it. Yeah, so normally you have tub springs at the top holding it and dampers. Not of this. This has proper shock absorbers instead. So subsequently you can install this anywhere you want. Doesn't require bolting down or anything like that. At this point, to be honest though, a lot of these machines were a bit like that anyway. So at the bottom we've got our flap. Open that up, you've got the filter and the emergency drain hose. It's not your standard filter though, it is enormous, and works really well. Right, so we've got this like monocoque tub and door system, like all Wascos basically, and old AEGs. So essentially, yeah, the tub and door are all connected together. What that essentially means is that, well, there's no door seal. Well, not a traditional door seal. There is a door seal, look, it's right here, but it's attached to the door. We've also got a small glass bowl just to bridge when the drum comes in like that. But essentially, yeah, you can load this machine up as much as you want, and nothing's going to get snagged or anything. Yeah. Right, we've also got the drum as well. So because this is a 55, it stands for 55 litres. But it's not, it's actually 53 litres drum. Yeah, and it's not that much difference to an old Zanussi drum. Bit deeper than a normal old Zanussi drum. It's also got the 7 kilogram drum paddles from a Zanussi as well, or AEG, or whatever. So yeah, I don't think it's quite as wide though. But that's where it ends. The drum spider is so reinforced that yeah, you could use lots of liquid over time and it will take ages for it to dissolve the spider. If you could just use powder, it's never going to break, ever. Right, I've also got this door lock system as well. So we've got a little prong which goes in there, which tells it that the door's shut. This one obviously pushes and actually physically locks the door. This little hole right here, because it's an electronic door lock, in an emergency, if you need to unlock it, there's a little tab in there, and you can lift it up and it will obviously unlock it. Right, so that door is now closed, but not locked. Right, take a look at the control panel at the top. Now, there are several different versions of this that you can have. This one is sort of like the almost top of the range version, which comes with 7 wash programs and 4 wash options. You can have a different one which basically gives you everything but delicate 30, but then has a spin only program, and instead of rinse stop you have a short spin cycle instead. There's an option with just 5 programs and a start button. There's an option to have where you can pre-program your own programs in and even your own options in. And there's one where there's only just 2 buttons and that's it. A very basic like 40 or 60, which apparently can also be changed up as well. Yeah, so you can also have them with obviously the display, but some of them, especially like the 2-button ones, don't come with a display. You can have an option to have a card reader as well. Now, of course, these machines are set up for coin mechanisms, both to be sat either on top of the machine or externally as well, which can all be wired in. Hence why you've also got this little coin thing here, and we've got the little clock icon as well to tell us the time. There is somewhere apparently as well, if you press and hold, you can have the temperature. We'll try that out later, but I've never got it to work. Right. Anyway, we'll go for the programs and options here. So we've got, obviously, Cotton's 95, we've got Cotton's 60, we've got Cotton's 40, Synthetic 60, Synthetics 40, Delicates 30, and the Wool Hand Wash, which I thought didn't end with a spin, because when I took them out they were like quite wet, but looking back at the footage, it does end with a spin, it's just quite short. Yeah. Also, 95, 60 and 40 end with a full for several minutes. Your 60 and your 40 synthetics wash with a higher water level and have a final shorter but still at 1000 RPM spin. Delicates, even higher water level, and the very short spin at the end. Don't think it does it in any immediate spins. Wool hand wash, high water level, barely any gentle action, and very short spin at the end. It only does 2 rinses instead of 3. Right. Timings wise, if you notice these times here, so what the machine does is kind of takes an average over, I think, several cycles and averages out of roughly how long it's going to be. If it's never done it before, you'll have 2 blanks. So, let me just show you. So, you might see that in a minute. So, we'll go through. All the options are actually applicable pretty much on every program, so you can have whatever you want with it. So we've got Express. Now what that will do is lower the temperature by 5 degrees. I think it's a little bit more than 95, and shortens the wash stage by 4 minutes. It doesn't change how many rinses it does, and it doesn't change the final spin or anything. That's it. So the wash stage engages only when the temperature has been hit, and then will wash for a predetermined wash time before draining and starting to do its rinses. So what this essentially does is cut it by 4 minutes, but also lowers the temperature. We've got pre-wash, So we've got some dashes there. That means that this program has never been ran with the pre-wash. Now I have, and did run it with the pre-wash, except it went wrong because the heater blew during the main wash, and I've never done it since. I've just done a 95 after that because I was already recorded pre-wash. You'll see that on the other channel tomorrow of what happens. Yeah, right. You got pre-wash. That will heat up to 40, I believe, and before draining and doing the main wash. You got rinse stop. Now this is just rinse hold, but it's quite clever on how it works. On the final rinse, it will fill up with water and tumble the laundry, but it won't add fabric softener. So when you're ready, you can come along to the machine and undo the rinse stop, which will then start to fill with more water. It's basically filling then through the fabric softener compartment, and then will fabric soften and tumble the clothes before draining and doing its final spin. I think that's quite clever, that. What this means is that you could fill up the final rinse stage with an additive, let's say a bit of bleach, leave it to soak for however you want it, and then proceed to add fabric softener for the final 2.5 minutes of the rinse, or however how long it does. You then got extra rinse function, which adds on, subsequently one extra rinse. So I've never run it before with extra rinse, but that's apparently what the time it takes. Now the reason why I said this is an average of 75 minutes, when I got it from Chris, it says 69 minutes. I have obviously managed to do it since, but it seems to take like 2 hours because we're only running on one heater, and I possibly loaded up a lot more than what the laundry centre ever did with his. Right, we've also got your start, key lock, and skip stage button. Now, when you start a cycle, it obviously starts at the main wash, but you can go through these subsequent lights. And I mean, you can select any stage you want to start from. So, like here, we've got our first rinse there. Like if we press extra rinse, the one above will light up once you start, I believe. And just do one hand wash, do extra rinse. Apparently it takes less time. Go figure. In fact, we'll try it out. Yeah. Anyway, it was the same. So, you can start the cycle, start the main wash, and then you can press and hold and go through until you hit a stage that you want, and then just release it and it will run from that stage. So if you want to spin only on this machine, you have to start saying normal cottons or synthetics, whatever, and then press and hold the button until it just lights up, just spin only, release, and it will do the spin. Right. Right, another thing to note as well, the timings, obviously, it comes with two 2.2 kilowatt heaters at 240 volt, making it 4.4 kilowatts, but you can run it on 13 amp, as like both me and the laundry centre have done for years, and just run on just basically one heater, 2.2 kilowatt heater. That means that the timings can be a lot longer than what it might say at the start. But the other thing is, the load size that you put in will also affect how long the time takes. Simply put, the less laundry that's in it, the less time it will take to heat all the water, and therefore the shorter the cycle will be. Nothing else will actually physically change with the load size. It does seem to weigh the load at the start. I'm not entirely sure what the change is, other than I think the rinse level may be adjusted accordingly to the load size. I also wouldn't worry the fact he only does, say, he does 3 rinses. I wouldn't really bother with extra rinse, because 3 rinses was a standard back in the day, but nowadays obviously machines only just do 2 rinses, and detergents have come a long way where they kind of wash out a lot quicker. Yeah. And I've found that rinsing is really, really good. Right, so our detergent drawer is obviously split into 3 compartments as per normal, but you'll notice how ridiculously large it is. Yeah, no messing around here. This is not your standard Electrolux detergent dispenser in any way, shape or form. No, what you got is more robust simplicity. And on top of that, we've got a humongous dispenser. So we've got the pre-wash compartment here, the whole main wash compartment here, and the little fabric softener compartment here, which still takes on around 100ml. There's no max line, but because of how this is obviously designed, so just don't go beyond this lip here. Can you see? Now obviously you've got fill beyond there, it's going to go down there anyway, but because of how premature, whatever it's called, goes in, it has to actually fill slightly bit more than that to start activating it to suck it all out. Yeah, it does its job. It's fine. Max fill level for the fabric softener, I think it's only around 100ml. So yeah, what, 15ml there, and it's barely made a dent. 15ml. Max level, I reckon about 75ml. I would like to say 100ml. I don't think it's that. It is tiny. Also, I wouldn't bother lifting that up. I'd just probably like tip it down there like I have done whilst I've been using this machine. Obviously, the machine fills through this gap here to flush out the fabric softener. 25-30ml of Persil non-bio professional. I hate to say it, but yeah, the drawer is enormously huge for what it is. Even back when this has sort of been made in 2003, Bold, a standard dose of P&G Bold was around 100. It's like 175 or 195 at that point for a 5kg machine. Well, this is a 5.5kg machine, so yeah, a standard dose would happily only take up about that much. And even if it was a heavy soil, hard water area, you're never going to need to fill this up. Ever. It's enormous. So another point just to kind of point out a bit, it does have a hot and cold fill on this machine, but it takes on hot and cold regardless of what temperature you select. And apparently there's a hot and cold for the pre-wash as well, bizarrely. Yeah. And the other thing is, I put the Persil back here, but the pressure doesn't seem to hit it correctly here. It's very odd. So if I was to put it more, say, directly down here, it'll take it in. But up here, it kind of misses. Weird. Right, so to actually lock it, you need to actually push down. And you'll hear a click like that. Now it's actually locked. Right, so what to give this Electrolux out of 10? Well, you actually kind of get what you paid for, basically. It isn't anywhere as quick as the Quick Wash, the QWC, for example. That is much quicker than this for the same low capacity and newer. But that's if I'm comparing it to that. What does this compare to other little giant commercial machines? Well, the Miele at the time was, believe it or not, the WS5427. That was its commercial little giant, and there was a Scottles version as well. I've got a version that eventually you might be able to see, the JLA, that's the JLA 6. But the JLA doesn't. It's very odd because depending on what you want from a commercial machine, this has more commercial variants. So you can have like this and much more overall control programming. The Scottles one tends to be you get sort of a couple of programs, say like 5 plus an express or a spin only option as well, which is fine. But then, or you got a full range like Scottles Spirit Line thing version. You know what I mean? There was nothing in between. The Miele's were set up in such a way where you could have 4 base programs and go off that, or you could have the full catalogue of having absolutely everything. This doesn't have a full catalogue of absolutely everything, but there you can play within it some of the parameters anyway. So that being said, the Miele does, and the Scottles version does. Reliability, the Electrolux is far more better built and will last longer than the Miele by miles, and is a little bit better than the Scottles in terms of reliability as well. So speed wise, obviously if you run with the double heater it is very quick. If you run without it, at least it will hit temperature. So the Miele, the only versions you had were basically more temperatures, but you still basically had the same 4 base programs. The Scottles version, like I said, you could have basically the 5 basic programs and an express wash, an eco express wash option, etc. Or you could have one unlocked in such a way where you've got variable temperature, spin, the lot, whatever you want. Reliability, like I said, the Miele is far more down compared to the Electrolux and the Scottles. The Scottles is a slightly worse built, I suppose, than the Electrolux. But they should both last just as long as each other in terms of reliability. I suppose the Scottles is a bit more user friendly, a bit more homely version since it has a door seal. But because of course it has a door seal, that's, to me, it's not commercial enough. And it uses a Bosch drawer, so the dispensing side of it might be too small in some cases. The Scottles as well, and the Miele, both have unbalanced load detectors in them, and they will shut off a spin if they need to, unlike this Electrolux, which just seems to spin regardless. Pumping as well from the other two, the Miele uses the same pump as it does on its domestics, which is still pretty quick, it's fine. And the same with the Scottles, it's just a domestic pump from a Bosch, so it can be quite slow. Whereas this has a proper dedicated filter, which is much more better made than, say, the domestic, and it has a much older big pump on it, so it drains really fast. It will sudslock a little bit, but it will generally try and spin through it as well. It won't give up. It's fine. I like the fact that you've got a couple of options on this, which is nice. You've got your sort of your express and the extra rinse function, which I like to have, as well as the pre-wash. So they're the three options I would probably use, more than the rinse stop. But the rinse stop as well is a proper rinse stop, and you can add additives, and then it will happily kind of rinse them in. So I'm going to give this a solid 9 out of 10, because 9.5 out of 10. 9 out of 10. 9.5 out of 10. It is very expensive. Even the equivalent now is about 5.5 to 6 grand. Even back then, it was still a good grand more than the Scottles or the Miele. The Miele was probably the cheapest anyway. There isn't that many alternatives either. So, yeah. Ease of fixing it as well. Some of the parts could be quite cheap. And they're quite cheap for how much the machine costs. So, yeah, there is that. And ease of access of getting a whole load of parts is easier too. There's far more Electrolux dealers than there are Scottles dealers. In fact, in the UK, right now, Scottles dealers, there's only 2. You can either only get them from JLA, or there's another place down south somewhere, and that's it. Electrolux dealers, JLA, but quite a few more will supply him. Miele parts only come from Miele, so yeah. Right, that's the full review of this. I enjoyed it. You'll see the 95 cycle tomorrow. Yeah, give us a like if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos. So, bye for now.